So she had this to say, and of course, that this freaked conservatives out because, you know, a Muslim woman wearing a hijab who also is also black and from Africa, like an African refugee, is speaking out against the atrocities that we commit around the world, and even comparing it to our enemies, right? Our enemies, those are the villains. Like, we're the good guys, they're the bad guys. Come on, it's as simple as that. So literally, just like understandably, they like lost their minds because they're all racist dipshits. Obviously, they lost their fucking minds over Ilhan Omar saying this. Now, the irony here is that Donald Trump has said similar things in the past, as I will show you. If you remember, like, this was one of Donald Trump's most basic moments where he was on with Bill O'Reilly and talking about Vladimir Putin and Russia and saying that we have killers too. Like, we're killers. You think we're good guys? No, we're pretty bad guys. Here is a comparison of that little snippet.
A lot of killers. We got a lot of killers. Why, you think our country's so innocent? You think our country's so innocent?
I don't know of any government leaders that are killers in America.
Well, take a look at what we've done too.
Putin.
So he was right. I mean, that was a correct take, and I have mentioned this in the past. So, of course, Donald Trump was like, we have a lot of killers, and then was like, but I want to do even more of that killing. If you recall, that's what happened with Qasem Soleimani. But, you know, he was truthful. And Republicans at the time were loving that he was, like, being honest about, and being an isolationist, and being honest about the American imperialist war machine that's, like, taking so much money. I thought there was a lot of populism that was happening on the right. But for some reason, when Ilhan Omar says similar things, it's like, whoa, what the how dare you, black Muslim man, woman? Very strange. I wonder what it is. I wonder what the difference is between Ilhan Omar and Donald Trump. I wonder what was going on there. So not only that, but also the idiotic House Democratic leadership, these animals, every single one of them, these cowardly dogs, okay? I spit on them. I spit on all of them. Shame on them. Shamefully jumped on the bullshit manufactured outrage that the Republicans were engaging in, and slammed on to Ilhan Omar as well. DC Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Majority Leader Steny Hoyer, Majority Whip James E. Clyburn, Assistant Speaker Catherine Clark, Caucus Chairman Hakeem Jeffries, and Caucus Vice Chair Pete Aguilar issued this joint statement on addressing comments made by Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. Legitimate criticism of the policies of both the United States and Israel is protected by the values of free speech and democratic debate. And indeed, such criticism is essential to the strength and health of our democracies. But drawing false equivalencies, big butt there, drawing false equivalencies between democracies like the U.S. and Israel and groups that engage in terrorism like Hamas and the Taliban foments prejudice and undermines progress towards a future of peace and security for all. Yeah, a future of peace and security for all, as long as there is unrelenting silence from the other side, which was the words of Benny Gantz, if you recall, in the last round of bombing in the Gaza Strip conducted by Israel in one of the operations that they like to call mowing the grass. Okay? Straight fascism. Straight up fascist bullshit. We welcome the clarification by Congresswoman Omar that there is no moral equivalency between the U.S. and Israel and Hamas and the Taliban. Pussies, all of them. Cowardly dogs, all of them. Yeah, it is a false equivalence. You guys want to know why it's a false equivalence to make a comparison between Hamas and Israel, or to make a comparison between the Taliban and the United States of America? Because Israel and the United States of America are significantly better at doing terror. Okay? Just because one is a legitimate state, even though Israel's legitimacy could be called into question, specifically in regards to its apartheid state currently as it stands, and should be prosecuted in the international criminal courts. But we won't even get into that. But just because one is a legitimate, well-established state does not change the reality that they are significantly better at doing terror than Hamas could ever dream of. Even if Hamas wanted to do as much terror as Israel does on a daily basis, they do not have the access or weapons. Okay? They simply do not have the power. Same with the Taliban. Get the f out of here. It is a false equivalence. It is a false equivalence. A false equivalence because we are bigger and better at doing terrorism. Just look at the kill count. Just look at the body count. Look at the KDA. Ilhan Omar said, I love all the pearl clutching that the right wing does whenever I talk about justice for victims of atrocities in the U.S. of our allies, but twist themselves into a pretzel defending Trump, calling our country a lot of killers. Miss me with your fake outrage. Trump defends Putin, says the U.S. has a lot of killers. O'Reilly told Trump that Putin's a killer. Trump's reply, you think our country's so innocent. Ilhan Omar, honorary member of Hamas, just compared to U.S. military with the Taliban. Sadly, it's not even surprising anymore. We have terrorist sympathizers in Congress, and it's being normalized by the mainstream media. If we have terrorist sympathizers in Congress, it's Lauren Boebert. Lauren Boebert herself is like too much of a pussy to be a white supremacist terrorist, but like she sympathizes with them. So I don't know what the she's talking about. Okay? The irony, of course, is that like Ilhan Omar is a politician. So she didn't even straight up say that like America is the same as Taliban and Israel is the same as Hamas. Like she didn't even say that. She wouldn't even be right if she said that because America and IDF are significantly worse. Okay? Like, that's the truth. So there's that. Are you saying that? No, I'm not even saying that. I'm taking it one step further. I'm saying that if we are looking at terror as like a political goal to disrupt the way of life of people without a single care for innocent civilians as casualties along the way, yes, America is not only a state sponsor of terror and does terror itself, but it's the best terrorist in the fucking planet. Okay? It's so much better. America is so much better at doing terror than Taliban could ever dream of. I mean, we're so good at doing terror. We funded half of these motherfuckers that are terrorists themselves, that we call terrorists themselves. We give them the guns, and then we go slap them around for using the same guns we gave them. Make no mistake. So I'm not mincing my words here. I'm actually telling you exactly what I mean. So of course, because of this comparison, they like lost their fucking minds. And, you know, they said that the United States and Israel are just imperfect, you know, they're just small beans. And Ilhan Omar is being so insensitive for saying we must have the same level of accountability for justice and justice for all victims of crimes against humanity, and including U.S., Israel, Hamas, Afghanistan, and the Taliban in the same video. So she had that video up, and then in an early Thursday tweet, after these attacks started coming like crazy, Ilhan Omar said, it's shameful for colleagues who call me when they need my support to now put a statement asking for clarification and not just call. The Islamophobic tropes in the statement are offensive. The constant harassment and silencing from the signers of this letter is unbearable. Citing an open case against Israel, U.S., Hamas, and Taliban in the ICC isn't a comparison, or from deeply seated prejudice. You might try to undermine these investigations or deny justice to their victims, but history has taught us that... She wrote taught. She misspelled taught. Us that the truth can't be hidden or silenced forever. And she is 100% correct. She is 100% correct. Cowardly f***ing dogs in the Democratic Party. Absolute pieces of shame on them. Shame on all of them. But not just shame on them, call them. Okay? This is my call to action for all of you. If you sometimes feel like you are you have no voice, you have no say, you do actually have a say. Call up every single one of these representatives, okay? And I'll try to figure out what their phone numbers are individually. I'm sure there's like a compilation of it somewhere. And be polite when you call them, certainly, because they will use that against you. If you are impolite, they will use that against you and say Ilhan Omar's supporters are like bad or whatever. It doesn't matter if you're angry. It doesn't matter if you're upset. Just when you call, just be as polite as you possibly can. Because cursing these assholes out is ultimately going to be used against you. It's going to be weaponized against you. You have to be as presentable as possible when you talk to them. And all you need to say is you stand with Ilhan Omar when you call up these offices, and that you oppose any effort to strip her of her committees or censure. That's it. That's all you need to say. That's the line.